All right, as promised. Oh, that's why she didn't want us to go. If she had something special for us. She said if we're going to talk, then she's going to be jamming in the background. We understand what you're doing, Not a Boy DJ, and that's all right with us because you got a baby that's a superstar, and the gentleman that is coming here today has a superstar mentality for our young people, our community, let's say that. So DJ Mbizi, you actually have a personal connection with this fella. Yes. I'd like to go ahead and throw it over to you.
Super excited to introduce who we have in the studio. He is my acting coach, one of my mentors when it comes to this industry in television, film, even theater.
Life Flex.
Has so many accolades. I'm talking about Emmy-nominated shows and Tony Awards and Grammys and all the things, all the accolades. But what I love about him is that he's one of those players that people don't always realize are there in the industry. He's not only the acting coach, but he does casting and is trying to get Vegas ready for this transition that we see of this Hollywood 2.0 that's coming to the Valley, getting some of us industry ready. So please welcome to the show, Mr. Peter Wise.
Hey.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you, Amber.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I know that you're here because we're going to talk about Vegas Stronger. But in addition to some of the highlights that I named, I want you to tell the Valley a little bit more about what you actually do here in Vegas before we get into what you do for the organization.
Well, I came out here from California to the desert during the pandemic. And I feel that God brought me out to the desert to do work and to grow his crops, to make it viable. I just saw a difference. I always knew, because growing up in New York, where I'm from, Vegas has the nightlife and has theaters and has entertainment. But what was missing is the art. It has show business, but it doesn't have the artistic creativity.
Right.
And so coming out here, I felt that need and then to teach, because I've been teaching in LA and hiring my students for the different shows that I have on All Black, BET, Lifetime. I have a show that was running, it's still on, House Divided, which we're Emmy nominated for 5 seasons. So that was the whole quest. And I see so many talented people, and they're not getting the structure and the real instruction of the art. They see it from afar. And now with social media, everybody wants to be on social media.
Right.
But they don't know the responsibility of being on social media. As you become more known and become a viable entity in reaching people, it's about your purpose.
Absolutely.
It's not about just the money or the fame or the notoriety. God put you in position to be a spokesperson for the unspoken, the voiceless people. And I love what you guys do, because that's what you do.
Every day.
You're the voice for the voiceless, the people who don't have that, and it's very important that we have those leadership positions.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about, what you're trying to bring here, you're calling to come here, because we've had conversations offline about how I've been acting since I was 16, but most of my acting classes and training and even education on the industry had to come from resources in LA. And the entertainment industry is very different here in Vegas. So what are your goals? What would you like to see out here as far as this pool of talent? Because I know you're very intentional on trying to build that and train that.
What I would like to see is more theater. I mean, you have a wonderful theater, the Smith Center.
Yes.
We have a wonderful theater because I'm a part of this community.
Yes.
I feel very connected. But to have black box theaters where actors can perform showcases and do small productions that build into larger productions, to create more writers for that productions, because we need writing material. And there's so many gifted writers out here. So I want to see more of that. Singers, because I've done musicals on Broadway. You know, I had Smokey Joe's, which got me a Grammy.
Period.
Cafe, which was all over the world.
Yes.
You know? And I didn't find your typical Broadway singers. I got people out of the church.
Yes.
People I looked under rocks, you know, and picked people up. And I feel that's what Vegas has. You guys, we have so many talented people here that has not been discovered or not have the direction. They feel they're so distant because they're in the desert. Now, since after the pandemic, you can live anywhere and be discovered. It's all through Zoom now, auditions. You don't have to live in L.A.
That's true.
to work in our industry, you know, and that's what I want to create, is that synergy and that exposure, and in a positive way, because so many people get misguided. You know, our business, you know, spiritually, it has a dark side, but we want to be the light in the darkness. And that's why God is bringing Christians into the fold of being of the voice for these people and to guide them properly, so they don't have to go or feel they have to compromise their position. They don't have to sell their integrity. You know,
I love that.
It's walking by faith and not by sight.
Okay, bring it on back to the church.
Amen.
I love it.
That's who I work for.
Well, let's talk about bringing the light, right? Because you actually bring a light to an organization out here called Vegas Stronger.
Yes.
And I know that you have actually been doing acting classes there, but as a form of therapy and healing, which I think is so cool. So tell our listeners a little bit more about Vegas Stronger as an organization and how the acting classes have been helping people there.
Well, art imitates life, and life imitates art to begin with. We're all on a stage. We're all acting every day. Whatever position we are doing, being a DJ, being a host, being a comedian, being a casting director, we are playing a role in life, you know, but finding the purpose, the real definition of our purpose of that role, and the commitment and the passion for the role. As an actor, you have to find the passion for the characters that you play, you know, and when I came across Vegas Stronger, I went down there to have a tour, and I saw what they were doing with the homeless and people who have been on addiction and different things. And I've worked with places in L.A. That fed the homeless. But I saw they're not just feeding them, they're teaching them how to grow their own crops.
Yes.
Which is better, to feed the farmer or to teach him how to grow his own crops? And that's what I believe in, because when you're gone, what do they do?
Right.
Otherwise, they become a slave to you, or you become an enabler, and they're codependent on it, just like drugs and anything else. So I saw they were putting healing to it. They're the antidote to homelessness, to drug addiction, and giving people a purpose. And I said, hey, let's do a drama therapy where you don't need a degree to be in this business, first of all. You know, all you have to do is have dedication, discipline, and determination. You know, you could be anything you want to be. And as we became adults, you know, with society being beat up, people start limiting their possibilities, and they give up hope. You know, and everything going on in our country, people really lost sight of that. And with families being broken, you know, more and more today. So I spoke to David Marlin, who's the head and the founder, who his story is amazing, and another brother from New York. And he gave up his wealth and position to start this. He had the glorious life for nothing. And he said, no, it's more than just having things. It's about serving, being of service to find happiness. And that's what a lot of actors are finding. It's not about just being famous. It's about, what am I doing with the fame?
Right.
Because I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. So I saw what they were doing, the boxing, the helping with housing, the medical, we got yoga classes. art classes. They pick people up off the street. If they don't have a ride, they'll come and get you.
Wow.
They're not feeding these people. They're giving them hope. They're giving an antidote, to healing. You know what I mean? And so acting, I get my students, and I've seen some breakthrough. Oh, I'm so grateful to be a part of it, because I'm seeing my purpose even more fulfilling. Breakthrough of people coming out of their shell, communicate with people, other people which they couldn't before because they were traumatized as children. I tell them, did you want to do? What did you dream about being when you were a kid? Were you an astronaut, fireman? Go back to that, because you lost sight of the dream of being dreaming.
The inner child.
So as we get ready to get out of here, I want you to do us a huge favor. If there's anyone who's listening and your message has resonated with them, how do they get in touch with you and find out more information about your initiative?
Well, I have besides Vegas Stronger, I do have a acting ensemble I'm building, because I'm building that. I want to build the theater out here, a theater community. So you could go to my website, pwastudio.org, www.pwastudio.org, or you could go to my Instagram, PeterWise10. Otherwise, for nonprofit and supporting our community, go to Vegas Stronger. We need help. We need contribution. We need donors. So join us, please.
All right.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Peter, for coming by the Wake Up Squad. I'm so excited to see how your work will continue to spread in our community. And yeah, you do a great job at bringing out the best in everybody you work with.